You have crossed it 100 times on your way to the Volta region, but I bet you didn't know the real story behind Ghana's most beautiful landmark. The Adomi Bridge, of course, Atimpoku's very own masterpiece. Let me take you back to understand why this bridge is so much more than just steel and cables. It's 1950 and Ghana, still called Gold Coast, is bursting with the energy of imminent independence. Kwame Nkrumah is leading the charge. And there's this incredible feeling in the air that everything is possible. But there's one massive problem that's been holding back progress for decades: the Volta River. This isn't just any river, people. The Volta River is one of Africa's major river systems. At Atimpoku, where the bridge now stands, the river stretches wide and deep, moving with a power that commands respect. During the dry season, it's relatively calm, almost inviting. But come the rainy season, it transforms into this churning, unstoppable force of nature. The current gets so strong that even experienced canoe operators would think twice before attempting to cross. Now picture this. It's early 1950s and Ghana is on the brink of independence. The nation is buzzing with possibility, and one of the biggest headaches, getting across the Volta River. The eastern region was practically cut off from the rest of the country during certain times of the year. Traders, families, students, everyone was stuck waiting for the unreliable ferry service. The Sechi ferry wasn't just inconvenient, it was a full-blown economic bottleneck. Imagine you're a cocoa farmer from the eastern region trying to get your beans to the market in Accra. You'd load up your truck, drive for hours, and then wait. Sometimes for 6, 8, even 12 hours at the ferry crossing. Your cocoa is sitting there, your truck is burning fuel, and you are watching your profit margin evaporate with every hour that passes. And it wasn't just about economics. There are stories, real life stories, of women going into labor while waiting at the ferry, of students missing crucial exams, of medical emergencies turning tragic because ambulances couldn't cross in time. The ferry only had space for maybe 8 to 10 vehicles at a time, and they had to make this slow, laborious crossing back and forth all day long. When the river was high or the weather turned bad, it would stop running altogether. Entire communities would be isolated for days. Opened on January 25th, 1957 by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, this bridge was a game changer, and the timing absolutely perfect. Just 2 months before independence. Think about what that meant. Nkrumah standing there, cutting the ribbon on this magnificent structure, basically saying, this is what we can do. This is the Ghana we are building. The ceremony itself was spectacular. Thousands of people lined both sides of the river. Traditional chiefs came in their full regalia. Government officials from around the world were in attendance because everyone understood the symbolic weight of this moment. This wasn't just a bridge opening. This was a declaration of capability, a statement that Ghana could dream big and deliver. Nkrumah's speech that day was powerful. He talked about how independence wasn't just about political freedom, but about building the infrastructure that would make freedom meaningful. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that this bridge represented the kind of thinking that would define modern Ghana. Practical, ambitious, and unifying. The crowd erupted in cheers when the first vehicles drove across. People were crying, like literally crying with joy. Before this, the only way across was the Sechi ferry, where you could be stuck in a queue for hours. And I mean hours. People would pack breakfast, lunch, sometimes dinner, just waiting to cross. Market women would watch their produce wilt in the sun. Students missed exams. It was chaos, especially during the rainy season when the river was at its most unpredictable. There are these incredible oral histories collected from people who lived through this era. One woman, Auntie Akosia from Akosombo, told researchers that she used to wake up at 3 a.m. to get to the ferry by 5 a.m., hoping to be among the first in line. Even then, she might not cross until noon. She sold fresh fish, so you can imagine what those hours did to her goods. She said the day the bridge opened was the happiest day of her entire working life. More important than any other milestone because it meant she could actually make a living. Another story comes from a teacher named Mr. Mensah, who used to work in Somenya but lived in Pome. Before this bridge, his commute was a nightmare. He would sometimes have to sleep at the school for days when the ferry wasn't in operation. After the bridge opened, he could go home every evening. He said it changed his entire relationship with his children. He went from being an absent father to being present, all because of a bridge. It was designed by the legendary engineer William Brown, who wanted something that wasn't just functional but iconic. Brown was working with Freeman Fox and Partners, the same British firm that had designed other famous bridges around the world. But this had to be special. He knew this wasn't just about connecting two river banks. This was about connecting a nation that was about to make history. Now, William Brown was a fascinating character. He would work on bridges across the British Empire, but he later said in interviews that the Adomi Bridge was the project he was most proud of. He spent months studying the site, analyzing the river's behavior across different seasons, consulting with local fishermen about the water patterns, and examining the geology of the Akosombo Hills, where the bridge would be anchored. Freeman Fox and Partners had a reputation for innovative designs. They worked on the Auckland Harbour Bridge in New Zealand and would later work on the Severn Bridge in the United Kingdom. But in the 1950s, the Adomi Bridge was one of their showcase projects. They brought in a team of engineers, surveyors, designers, who worked alongside Ghanaian technical staff. This collaborative approach was actually quite progressive for the time. There was genuine knowledge transfer happening, with Ghanaian engineers learning cutting-edge techniques. The design they settled on is called a suspension bridge, and at the time of construction, it had the longest span in Africa, a whopping 245 meters between the two towers. Let that sink in. The longest on the entire continent. Those towers you see rising 60 meters above the water, they are precision engineered to handle not just the weight of the bridge, but also the stress from the wind, the movement of heavy vehicles, and the natural expansion and contraction from Ghana's heat. To put 245 meters in perspective, that's about 2.5 football fields. The towers are as tall as 20-story buildings. The main cables that hold everything up, each one is made up of thousands of individual steel wires bundled together, with a total tensile strength that could literally hold up several jumbo jets. The engineering calculations for this wire were done by hand. No computers, just slide rules, mathematics, and brilliant minds. And here's something most people don't know. The bridge was designed to sway. Yes, you heard that right. Suspension bridges are meant to move slightly with the wind and the traffic. It's not a design flaw, it's a design feature. Rigid bridges snap under stress. Flexible ones dance with it and survive. Engineers calculated exactly how much movement was safe, and they built that into the structure. So that gentle sway you sometimes feel when you are driving across, that's the Silver Lady doing exactly what she was designed to do. The foundation work alone was incredible. Those towers aren't just sitting on the surface. They are anchored deep into the bedrock beneath the riverbed. Workers had to evacuate through layers of sediment and rock, working underwater in some of the most challenging conditions imaginable. They used casings, which are huge watertight chambers that sunk into the riverbed and then pumped dry so workers could dig inside them. It was dangerous, claustrophobic work in the darkness below the river. That's why she's called the Silver Lady. Engineers chose that specific silver paint to create a stunning visual contrast against the deep green of the Akosombo Hills. She doesn't just sit there, she glows, especially during those early morning hours when the sun rises over the river, or at sunset when she catches that golden light. Photographers and travelers from all over the world stop just to capture that moment. It's pure magic. But here's what a lot of people don't realize. That silver coating isn't just for show. It's actually a specialized aluminum paint that protects the steel from Ghana's humidity and the corrosive spray from the river below. Every few years, maintenance crews have to reapply it, climbing those towers and working along the cables to keep our Silver Lady looking fresh. It's a labor of love that's been going on for nearly 7 decades. The maintenance work is actually a huge undertaking. There's a dedicated team of engineers and technicians who inspect every inch of the bridge on a regular schedule. They are looking for corrosion, stretch fractures, cable wear, any sign that something needs attention. They use specialized climbing equipment to access the highest point of the towers. They rappel down the main cables, checking each section. During the repainting operations, they sometimes have to close lanes of traffic because they are working with heavy equipment and scaffolding. And the paint itself, it's not something you can buy at any hardware store. It's a specialized formulation designed specifically for steel structures in tropical climates. It has to withstand intense UV radiation from our sun, torrential rains during the wet season, high humidity year-round, and the salt and minerals carried in the river spray. The procurement process for this paint alone involves international suppliers and quality testing to ensure it meets exact specifications. There's actually a funny story about the name Silver Lady. Nobody knows exactly who came up with it first. Some say it was the local fishermen who first saw the bridge gleaming in the sun. Others claim it was workers during construction who started calling her that. What we do know is that by the time of the official opening, the name had already stuck. Even official government documents started using it. It wasn't formally designated as the Silver Lady, but try telling that to anyone in Ghana. So that's its name, and that's on period. But building her was a nightmare. Back in 1955, the Volta River was infested with crocodiles. It was so dangerous that workers couldn't lift the steel deck sections straight out of the water like usual. They had to pull them into place sideways to stay clear of the crocodiles. Can you imagine being one of these construction workers? You're trying to build this incredible bridge, focus on precision engineering, and you've got to constantly watch out for massive crocodiles circling below. The local fishermen at the time used to tell stories about crocodiles longer than their canoes. Some workers reportedly refused to work certain shifts because the crocodiles were more active during those hours. Let me tell you more about these crocodiles, because this part of the story is wild. The Volta River crocodiles weren't just numerous, they were huge. We are talking specimens that could reach 16, even 18 feet long. These were apex predators that had lived in the river for generations, completely undisturbed. The local Akosombo people had a healthy respect for them, with traditional protocols about fishing times and river activities that had evolved over centuries to avoid conflicts. But then comes this massive construction project with hundreds of workers, boats going back and forth, equipment in water, vibrations from the pile driving, everything that would disturb and agitate these creatures. The construction company had to hire local hunters and river guides as safety officers. These men knew the crocodiles' behaviors, their territories, their patterns. They would patrol the work area watching any approaching crocodiles, and they would use noise makers, drums, even controlled small charges to scare them away during critical operations. There's this one story that's been passed down. I can't verify if it's 100% true, but multiple old-timers tell versions of it. Apparently, there was one particularly massive crocodile that had workers nicknamed the Chairman. This one was so big and so bold that it would actually approach the construction barges. One day, during a crucial operation to position a deck section, the Chairman surfaced right in the middle of the work zone. Everything had to stop. The engineers were panicking because they had this massive piece of steel suspended in mid-air, and they couldn't safely complete the maneuver with a giant crocodile in the way. One of the local guides had to take a canoe out. Incredibly brave or incredibly crazy, you decide, and make enough noise to get the chairman to move along. The construction team had to come up with creative solutions. They brought in boats to patrol the water, making noise to scare away the crocodiles during critical operations. They adjusted the entire construction schedule around the crocodiles' feeding patterns. And through all of that, the danger, the innovation, the sheer determination, they still finished the bridge on schedule. That's Ghanaian resilience right there. The actual construction methodology is fascinating from an engineering standpoint. They couldn't build the bridge from the bottom up like you might with a regular bridge because of the river's depth and those crocodiles. Instead, they built from top down. First, they erected the towers on either bank. Then, they strung the massive main cables from one tower to the other. This required specifically designed cable spinning equipment that would make trip after trip across the river, adding wire after wire while the cables reached their full thickness. Once the cables were in place, they hung vertical suspender cables down from them. And then came the very tricky part, lifting the deck sections into place. Each section weighed several tons and had to be positioned with millimeter precision. They used floating barges to bring the section into position, then a complex system of pulleys and winches to lift them into place. The whole operation required perfect coordination between two teams on both banks, on the barges and on the bridge structure itself. Weather was another challenge. The bridge was under construction for about 2 years, from 1955 to 1957. That meant 2 rainy seasons, with all the complications they brought. High water, strong currents, limited visibility during storms, all of it had to be factored into the schedule. There were definitely days where no work could happen at all, and the project managers had to constantly adjust timelines. The bridge cost about £1.5 million to build. That's roughly 2.1 million Ghanaian pounds at the time. In today's money, we are talking well over 100 million cedis. But you know what? Worth every peso. Because when that bridge opened, everything changed. Journey times were slashed, trade exploded, families could visit each other without planning military-style operations. The eastern and western parts of Ghana were finally truly connected. Let's talk about economic impact, because it was staggering. Studies done in the years after the bridge opened showed that trade volumes between the eastern and western regions increased over 300% in the first 5 years alone. 300%. Journey time that used to take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours, when you factor in ferry waiting times, were reduced to a simple 30 minutes drive. The fishing industry transformed overnight. Fresh fish from the Volta could now reach markets in Accra the same day it was caught. Farmers could access new markets. Small businesses could expand their customer base. The bridge essentially unified the regional economy in a way that had never been possible before. Some economists argue that the Adomi Bridge had a greater impact on Ghana's economic development than any other single infrastructure project in that era. There were also unexpected social benefits. Families that had been separated by the difficulty of crossing could reunite more easily. Young people from the eastern region could access schools and universities in the west. Medical facilities became more accessible. Emergency cases that once would have been hopeless now had a fighting chance because ambulances could actually reach hospitals in time. I've read accounts from business owners in places like Koforidua and Somenya who said the bridge was the difference between their businesses surviving or failing. One woman who ran a textile shop said she could suddenly access suppliers in Accra, get better prices on goods, and offer her customers more variety. Her business tripled in size within the first 3 years of the bridge opening. And for the 90s kids, check this out. From 1994 until the redenomination in 2007, the Adomi Bridge was the primary face of the 2000 cedi notes. It was a symbol of national unity, and you literally carried it in your pocket every day That's so cool. Think about what it meant to put the Adomi Bridge on our currency. Out of all the landmarks we could have chosen, castles, forts, government buildings, we chose a bridge, a structure that literally connects people. That says something profound about our values as a nation. Every time someone made a transaction, every time a child received money from a parent, they held this reminder that we are stronger when we are connected. The design of that banknote was actually beautiful. The bridge was shown from an angle that captured both its engineering elegance and its natural setting. In the background, you could see the Akosombo Hills. The silver color of the bridge was rendered in a special ink that would catch the light. It was one of the most distinctive banknotes in circulation, and even today, collectors prize those old 2000 CD notes. I remember my grandmother keeping those old notes in a box even after the redenomination. She would pull them out sometimes and say, "This bridge brought your grandfather back home to me." Before this, he would be away for weeks because crossing was such a problem. These aren't just engineering stories. These are family stories, love stories, stories about how infrastructure shapes lives. And you know what else? The bridge featured in Ghanaian art and music. High life musicians wrote songs about it. Poets referenced it as a symbol of progress. Artists painted it, photographed it, used it as backdrop for fashion shoots and music videos. The Adomi Bridge became part of our cultural identity, not just our infrastructure. There's a beautiful poem by a Ghanaian poet whose name escapes me right now, but the opening lines are something like, "Silver lady spanning the ancient river, connecting tomorrow to yesterday. The cables hold more than steel and stone. They carry the dreams of a nation forward." I might not have the exact words right, but that was the spirit of it. Today, the Silver Lady is still standing strong as a symbol of Ghanaian pride. She's carried millions of vehicles, connected countless families, and supported the flow of goods and services that keep our eastern region thriving. Engineers inspect her regularly, and she's been retrofitted over the years to handle modern traffic loads. But that original 1950s elegance, still there. That retrofitting work is worth mentioning because it shows how well the original design has held up. In the 1990s, engineers did a major assessment and found that the basic structure was still incredibly sound. They reinforced some elements, upgraded the road surface, improved the drainage system, and modernized the lighting. But the core design, Brown's original vision, needed minimal changes. That's testament to how well it was engineered. More recently, there have been discussions about weight limits because modern trucks are much heavier than the vehicles back from 1957. The bridge has load sensors now that monitor stress levels in real time. There are regular inspections using drones and specialized cameras that can detect microscopic cracks or corrosions. The technology has changed, but the bridge itself remains fundamentally the same magnificent structure. There's even talk about building a second bridge nearby to handle increased traffic. But trust me, nothing could replace the original. The Adomi Bridge has witnessed Ghana's journey from colonial times to independence, through coups, constitutional rule, through economic struggles and triumph. She has seen it all, standing steady through every chapter of our national story. The proposed second bridge is an interesting topic. Traffic volumes have increased so much that during peak hours, especially on weekends and holidays, there can be significant congestion on the Adomi Bridge. A second crossing would alleviate that pressure. But there's also strong sentiment that whatever new bridge gets built, it shouldn't compromise the visual integrity of the Silver Lady. Some proposals suggest building it a few kilometers upstream or downstream, keeping the original as a kind of monument where the new bridge handles most of the heavy traffic. But here's the thing, many Ghanaians are resistant to the idea of diverting traffic away from the Adomi Bridge. There's something meaningful about driving across this piece of history. It's a construction to our past, a reminder of what we achieved. Ask anyone who regularly travels the Accra Volta route. and they will tell you that crossing the Adomi Bridge is one of the highlights of the journey. I have talked to taxi and bus drivers who have been doing this route for decades. They all have stories about the bridge. One driver told me that he makes it a point of explaining the bridge's history to first-time passengers, especially international visitors. He said, "I am not just a driver, I'm a tour guide for Ghanaian pride." Another driver said that every time he crosses the bridge, he says a little prayer of thanks to the people who built it and made his livelihood possible. The bridge has also become something of a pilgrimage site for engineering students from Ghanaian universities. KNUST, University of Ghana, and other institutions regularly bring students to study the bridge as a real-world example of suspension bridge designs. There's so much to learn from it. The original design principles, how it's held up over time, the maintenance protocols, the way it's adapted to local conditions. It's basically a living classroom. International engineering delegations have also visited to study the Adomi Bridge. When other African countries were planning their own major bridge projects, they often sent teams to Ghana to learn from the Adomi Bridge experience. It became a model for how to successfully execute major infrastructure projects in challenging environments. So next time you cross, take a moment. Look at those gleaming towers. Feel the slight sway that comes from any suspension bridge. Remember the crocodile dodging workers, the vision of William Brown, the leadership of Nkrumah, who saw this as more than just a bridge. Remember that you are not just crossing water, you are crossing a piece of living history. You are traveling over the Silver Lady, Ghana's brilliant testament to what we can achieve when we dream big and build bold. Think about all the lives that have been touched by this structure. Think about the student who got to university on time because of this bridge, the mother who made it to the hospital in time to save her child, the entrepreneur who built a successful business because goods could flow freely, the couple who fell in love during chance meetings that only happened because traveling became easy, the grandmother who got to spend her last years with family instead of being isolated by a river. Every single day, thousands of people cross this bridge. Most don't think about the history, the engineering, the sacrifice that went into building it. They are just going about their lives, heading to work, visiting families, doing businesses, returning home. But that's exactly the point. The best infrastructure is infrastructure that just works. That becomes such a natural part of life that you don't even notice it anymore. But I'm asking you to notice. I'm asking you to appreciate, because the Adomi Bridge isn't just infrastructure. It's a monument to human ingenuity, determination, and vision. It's proof that Ghana, on the eve of independence, was already capable of world-class engineering. It's a symbol that we chose to put on our money because it represents who we are and what we value. And hey, maybe snap a photo, because at Adomi Bridge, she's still serving looks after almost 70 years. That's iconic behavior, and she deserves the recognition. Share it on social media with some of these facts. Tell your friends the crocodile story. Keep the history alive, because as long as we remember where we come from and what we've achieved, we'll keep building toward an even more incredible future. The Silver Lady stands as a reminder. We built great things before, and we'll build great things again. That's the Ghanaian spirit, darling. And it's still shining silver, still connecting us all. This is the Ghana Insider.